Hey, it's Theo and thank you for joining me. And today I wanted to look at the best deck to climb the legend. The latest balance patch changed a few things and it should be the last balance patch as well until the next expansion. So unless some big changes happen, these decks should last you until the next expansion. And if you want to know more about the next expansion, I've been reviewing every card from the expansion and I'll have a link to that in the description. Now let's get started with the best decks. First of all, it is Pain Demon Hunter, looks to be the best deck after the patch. Like, it used to be the slower Cliff Dive Demon Hunter, but turns out now the faster build is just better. It's pretty similar to the Cliff Dive Demon Hunter, but now, yeah, it has a bunch of that early game, right? The Priest cards mainly, Acupuncture, Brain Masseuse, Nightshade Tea. The Hot Calls, just a lot of damage card for the early game that really helps it out. Plus on top, of course, the Bullhawk, which is still the core of the deck. Just the Bullhawk into the Ravenous Fell Hunter, into the Return Policy. I mean, that is a lot of minions, really annoying to deal with. It's a lot of damage as well, right, with all the death rattles. And it also makes that, like, other deck can't really kill you through the box because they provide so much healing. Then the next deck we have is the Handbuff Hunter, and yeah, it's returned again. Just like, it keeps popping up in these lists with best decks. And yeah, it performs really well, just it's slightly different now than what it used to be. Now we have the Bumbling Bell up as well on top of the Mythical Rune Bear. And what that means is that you're less focused on just buffing one big minion, because often you have two minions in your hand. But yeah, you have a lot more gas. You can build big boards multiple times in a row with the Rune Bear and the Bumbling Bell. Also, we got a bit of burst with the Death Roll for a big minion, like even a Starship, Furious Files, and the Shalado Seal. So no longer if you lose the board, you insta-lose the game. There is quite a bit of damage in this deck. And the third deck here is the Drunk Paladin, and yeah, not much has changed, of course. Yeah, the Divine Brew got nerfed, so it's just Divine Shield, so you have a bit less burst than it used to be, because you no longer can like line outside into the brews and get like 10 plus damage in one turn. But outside of that, it's pretty much still the same. We do have Shellado here, so you can set like that Starship again, or just have a lot of burst, right? It's 10 extra burst you have, especially with that Divine Brew damage gone. This might just be the extra burst you need, and yeah, outside of that, it's just the same old Drunk Paladin with Sea Shanty and Lightbolt as your threats, and then you try to cheat them out as early as possible, and that just usually does the job. And we have the Imbue Druid, and yeah, this kind of has returned. It fell a little bit off the last patch with the nerfs, but with the other decks getting nerfed, it's among the best decks again, and yeah, it's still basically the same list. I think instead of Grifter now we have the Malorn, but other than that, yeah, it's still just the same Imbue Druid, right? You try to really get a lot of cheap early spells for your hero power to skill that fast, and then we got some late game with these three cards that can definitely win then in combination with your big hero powers. And here we have another deck that has been popping up in the last few best decks videos, the Menagerie Death Knight. And yeah, I don't think anything changed about this list. It's still as before, right? Get some early sticky minions. Yeah, push damage with that, and then finish the opponent off with all the burst you have with yeah, Ghoul's Knight, Horizon's Edge, Foam Render, even a Junkrat if there's a board. This can be a lot of damage. And another Menagerie deck we have is the Priest, and yeah, it's pretty much the same story here, right? You want to push that early damage, although yeah, it doesn't have as much burst as the Death Knight, but it's a lot better at getting on board fast with good stats, especially with the 1-drops, which you get buff for free with the Divine Shield. And then also have a bit of burst from, well, basically that Demon Hunter deck as well, right? Acupuncture and the Hot Calls. And it's also running the Imbue cards, the Bitterblue Knight, Lunarwing Messenger. So yeah, you can really use that, the hero power with the Papercraft Angel especially, to get a lot of tempo in the early game, get a 1-2 drop for free, which is really nice. And of course, it also enables the Spirit of the Kelderai, which yeah, is pretty good tempo as a 2 mana 4/6. And the next deck we have is the Imbue Paladin, and yeah, this deck got a patch before, got a big upgrade with the 1 mana hero power, but I think it fell a bit off as the patch went on, but now it looks strong again at the start. We'll see if it falls off again. But yeah, not too much has changed though in between the patches. The only thing I think here is that we have 2 Royal Librarians, so you can use this to trade. So you always have like instantly the dragons that you shuffle from your deck. So if you have an empty deck, you can get like a bunch of 10-drop dragons, and there's only 2 dragons. It's the Runaway Black Queen, and especially the Briar Spawn Drake is important, because that can push so much damage in the late game to win that game. But before that late game happens, you really want to play for tempo, because you don't want to fall behind. And but yeah, once you get to the mid game, like turn 5, turn 6, right? Once you get those like 4+ mana dragons on the board every turn, becomes really good. And then also, yeah, Ursa Renewing Flames is a ton of damage and healing that really helps you win the game. And then we have the return to prominence of the Armor Demon Hunter. Yeah, not everybody's favorite deck, including mine, but yeah, it does win games, so that's why I'm putting it here. And yeah, what it does now, instead of just going Arcanite into the Fellhound into Fellbed, you just go Arcanite into Fellbed. And you still get a ton of those taunts, and you just keep spamming it over and over with return policy. And yeah, it's really difficult for a lot of slow decks to just kill you through all those Arcanite defense crystals. And in the late game, yeah, you got to kill Jaden, but yeah, most of the time you don't need it because you can just kill the opponent with like a Ceaseless into Exodar combo. Because yeah, after a few Arcanites, that Exodar damage is pretty lethal. And then we have another nerf deck of the Spell Damage Druid, and yeah, the nerfs. Heard it, of course, no longer can play the Magical Dollhouse on one, unless you coin it. But yeah, it's still a very good deck, right? It's still what it did before, just a little bit slower, but yeah, it still just wins pretty fast with the Alonius damage plus Insignias. Like, you can so easily deal close to 100 damage with it, like before turn 10, and yeah, no deck can really stand up to that in terms of armor gain, unless you have like the perfect hand and an armor deck. So yeah, it's still really strong against those slower decks, and that is why it's still one of the better decks to climb with. And then we have the Starship Death Knight, and before the patch, yeah, some people thought this was gonna completely dominate the meta, but turns out, yeah, it didn't actually get better. It got worse after the nerfs, even though it didn't get nerfed itself, but yeah, the matchups changed, and yeah, those matchups didn't go in the favor of the Death Knight, so that's why it's pretty low. But hey, it's still a solid deck to climb. Just yeah, not as good as many people thought it was going to be. And also now the build we're playing is the 2 Blood 1 Unholy build, because yeah, the triple blood with more removal I think just got worse with the meta shift. So you want to be a bit more proactive. So we got cards like the Brittlebone Buccaneer, Morbid Swarm, and a Foam Render as well in this deck, just like Menagerie and Headless Horseman, just so you have a lot more ways to push damage instead of just waiting for your opponents to fill the board and clear those. And then we have the Protoss Rogue deck, and yeah, as always, there's always got to be at least one good Rogue deck. Whatever you do to Rogue, how many nerfs you throw it away, it's gonna keep surviving. And looks like now the best deck for Rogue is the Protoss Rogue. And yeah, this is a bit of a different build to what we've seen, but this seems to be the best performing one, and it's running the Dark Gift package with the Cinder Sword, with the Nightmare Fuel and the Creature of Madness, and then yeah, you can push a lot of damage, and then summon the Dread Corsa as well quickly that you can tutor with the Raiding Party. And then once you push the damage, you don't even need that many Templars, right, to go with the Sonya. Just a bit of damage from the Archons should be enough in most matchups. And then the best performing Shaman deck is, again, the Nebula Shaman, Murmur Shaman. And yeah, not much has changed to it, right? It's still all about the Murmur scam. Get that Murmur out as soon as possible with most of your late game. You want to hope, try maybe win with like Shadow Block into Fire Rack, or just get a full board with Nebula. And yeah, unless the opponent has some big removal, the game is pretty much over. Also, it's running Flash Appeal, I mean Aspect's Embrace, but yeah, the Imbue is also really nice, because if one of your late game minions sticks, you can just Imbue, because you never really want to totem in this deck, even if you have the mana left, because it just takes up a board slot. Then a newer deck we've seen this patch is the Taunt Druid. Now, it's not super amazing to climb with, but it's also not awful, as you may think looking at this list. But yeah, what the deck wants to do, right, is just summon a lot of taunts, and especially the Grey Bow is very important, because once Greybow comes on the board and it doesn't get killed, you can like cube it and summon it over and over, and well, just have infinite taunts. And also we've got the Umbra to go with it, right? So you can like get more Greybow procs, and yeah, even if it gets killed, it can still return with that Umbra. And then besides that, yeah, we also got Hydration, turn a Greybow again, and yeah, you just get a never-ending wall of taunts. And then we're getting to the best warrior deck, which is the Mech Warrior, although I think the Hydration Warrior was pretty close behind this one, but this seems to be slightly better at the moment, because yeah, this deck just pushes so much damage with that testing dummy. Like, it's 8 damage, but then you have so many ways to bring it back or proc it, right? We've got the Recommend Deckham, we've got the Inventor Boom and the Boom Wrench, and then yeah, also the Umbra, which usually procs a couple of these testing dummies, and yeah, that is so much damage. Most decks will not be able to survive it. And then we're getting to the Protoss Mage, and I know a lot of people complain about this deck, but it's never really performed that well, and it continues to just be an okay deck, nothing amazing, but yeah, it does do well in some matchups like the Death Knight. But yeah, it's very, very slow, right? You only have one real win con with the Colossus, and that takes a while to set up. So this deck only really works well into the slower matchups, and yeah, if it faces anything fast, it's usually struggling pretty hard. And then the last class I didn't have a deck for yet was the Warlock, and yeah, the best deck for is the Starship Warlock. But yeah, it's gotten a bit worse with the last patch. The meta change didn't do it well. Like, for example, right, all those Demon Hunters with those Death Rattles, it's really annoying to deal with because Eternal Layover is not a great answer to a board full of Bullhawk. Besides that, it's just yeah, pretty much the same as before the patch. Not much changed here. Just remember when you're playing this deck, this is not a wheel deck most of the time. It's more about the starships, and then yeah, wheel is only there for the slower matchups. And these are all the decks I've got for you. Codes in the description as always. Let me know in the comments what deck you've been playing, or if you missed any decks from this list. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and until next time.